wise. The other thing I'd love for you to do is pull up a script if you can do it. One of your scripts, something you've written. It's not like it won't break the experience if you don't do that, but it could be helpful if you've got something in front of you. So if you come up here, that'd be awesome. And if you have access to one of your scripts on your phone or a tablet or something, you can pull it up. That would be cool too. You can go back to talking.
You hear the homework?
I'm just gonna wait a minute because we've been kicking off a couple minutes later and we got some people will trickle in.
Well, by the time I got here.
My access desktop.
I'm so old fashioned. All my scripts are like in my thing.
They're in your what?
Like on my C drive in my laptop.
Hell yeah.
I don't know if I have them on my Google Drive.
That's all right. You could just think of one. You wrote it.
So you're
Is he recording this one?
He said he's live
He's
streaming.
streaming it on
So I assume that's also
Facebook.
recording. That's the
and,
question. For
Actually, no,
someone else.
because I send scripts, so
I might want to come back to it one day.
probably in my email, right?
How does, can anyone not hear me just talking like this? Should I talk into the mic? Anyone? Okay. Let's get started. Everybody cool with that?
Yeah.
My name's Jason Tostovan. I'm a writer-director, beginning to explore acting in an effort to get better at everything about filmmaking. I have a long history with Austin Revolution Film Festival. In many ways, it is responsible for me staying in this specific creative space. It was a real inspiration for me. And also, community is essential. Drew and I were just talking about how important it is as humans, but also creative people, to have a group where you feel like you belong, right? It feels risky. In indie, we do our currency is ego because we don't have any money. So, you have to be audacious and think you have something to say, which is pretty fucking arrogant, right, to start. So we need a group of people that believe in us. So just a testament to the culture and the experience that Jim and Jess and all the volunteers over the years have built here. I've seen many of you, almost all of you here before, so I know you know what that's about. I would like to ask for your indulgence with this workshop talk. Here's what I mean by that. I really wrestled with this. What to talk about, what to share, because any of us who have written or paid attention to writing, screenwriting, we all have the same couple of things in our heads about the first 10 pages of your screenplay. And I'm going to prove it, I hope, now by asking you, what does the first 10 pages of your screenplay have to do? Anyway, this is not a wrong answer thing.
Hook your audience.
You got to hook your audience. Okay, we can stop right there. This is what we've been told over and over and over again. I am never interested in a workshop or a talk that is like a tips and tricks thing. It's okay for other people to do it. I don't sit in judgment of them. It's just not a thing that's interesting for me to do. Also, and especially when we've all got the same advice in our heads, which is you got to hook your audience. So what I'd like to do is ask for your indulgence in me exploring this from a different angle, which is the thinking behind the first 10 pages, and a different premise, which is the first 10 pages are not just an advertisement. They are an advertisement for your script and your writing and this idea of hooking your audience. That's true. It is incomplete. It is necessary but not sufficient. Really, the first 10 pages are the keystone of your entire script. They are the foundation that your screenplay sits on and determines whether it works. So just mathematically, as a blueprint, as architecture, whether it works. And also whether you have the chance for it to win. So whatever winning means, it might mean winning a screenplay contest. It might mean winning over a manager you send it to. It might mean winning over the audience that ultimately sees the movie made from the screenplay. But those two things happen in the first 10 pages and are dependent on the first 10 pages. So what you might have come in expecting is like a tips and tricks thing. I will, in the spirit of satisfying that expectation, boil all this stuff down to some application at the end. But what I'd rather do is just talk through the thinking and get us to explore our thinking. I just think passing on the warmed over advice is super boring. I don't want to do that. And I don't think you want to do that either. Like I'd rather it would be satisfying to me if you just didn't agree with anything that I said, but it helped you clarify your own thinking. Right? You might go, well, I think that's horseshit, but it makes me clearer about how I approach screenplays. I think that would be great. Okay, so just, you don't have to say yes out loud, but can I have your permission to just explore it from a different angle that way? And thank you. Okay, so I have my notes here because I've got quite a bit I want to share for us to all chew on. So this premise that the first 10 pages are the keystone or are the foundation. I'm sorry, those are two opposite ends of architecture. I'm sorry for fucking up the metaphor there. Let's say foundation. I want to introduce to you a concept that I am calling satisfying surprises. And if you buy this concept, this will make a lot of sense as we go through it. So I think the first 10 pages of your screenplay, I don't know what my frame is. I want to walk around a little bit, but this is streaming.
It looks like you've got a pretty
Is it pretty wide?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Thank you.
The first 10 pages of your screenplay are the foundation for its ability to work and win. And the win part, I think, is about satisfying surprises. So just tuck that phrase away and we'll come back to it throughout all the stuff we're going to talk about. Satisfying surprises. Surprise is easy, right? Unmodified surprise, you just do a thing and it's surprising. But it's not satisfying unless it's been set up and it's integral to the story, right? And it's part of the contract you make with the audience. So that it's just like the overall premise I'd like to work with. A way of thinking about a story is an ongoing contract with your audience. This is not a surprise to anybody, but I think it's really important for us to remind ourselves that when you are telling a story, which I'm doing right now, I can lose you at any moment. So what I did up front was contract with you. Hey, you might be expecting this, but I think we'll all be better if we do this. Can I have your permission to do that? We did a contract. But at any point, you can break it. You can go that I actually am bored, or I got to poop, or but I can lose you to anything. Your story, your screenplay, same way, right? Your movie that gets made out of your screenplay, same way. You contract with the audience, but you have to maintain the contract throughout the experience. And one of the things that makes a contract renewable with your audience is this idea of satisfying surprises. So a little diversion here. Probably feels like I've been worried quite a bit, but a little diversion. Long-running debate about structure. What I mean by that is there are lots of people who are mad about Save the Cat. I think that's still a thing in the atmosphere. For me, this is, I don't say this to make anybody mad, so I'm sorry if you are. I think this is a silly argument. I think it's unequivocally true that humans engage stories through structure. Like, I don't believe this idea that I don't use structure. Like you do, otherwise it would be totally incoherent. Nobody would know what the fuck you were talking about. So you are definitely using structure. What I will say is structure, you can't just have structure, right? You can't just have the beats that say are in Save the Cat. You can't just follow those things. They have to surprise you. They have to be new. They have to give you the same thing, only different, for those of you who have heard that phrase. It's about structure exists to allow you to deliver the one thing everyone loves in a story, a surprise. Now, I had an interesting insight for me, which I hope will be interesting for you. My writing partner and I were pitching, and we were in a group pitch situation. And it was with some development people. And we pitched, and we watched everybody else pitch, and we watched them give feedback in real time. This was at a writing retreat. So it's nerve-wracking, of course, and everybody's butthole was puckered. And, but it was incredibly insightful because what we discovered was, what we were talking about afterward was the things that everybody responded to, every time it was positive, every time the development executives had something positive to say about the pitch, they were surprised. Every single time it boiled down to, what's another way of saying that was surprising? I didn't expect that, right? It played with my expectations. This is the, I think, secret to a satisfying story. So this is like a diversion about, yes, you need structure. Yes, you need to build it out, but it's about surprise. Okay, so that's all my setup. Thank you for indulging me in that. First 10 for structure, yes. But to excel, it's got to be the foundation for satisfying surprises. Satisfying surprises are unexpected and logical in retrospect. They're unexpected and logical in retrospect. So they're not necessarily logical in the moment. You don't put it together in the moment. You put it together later. There's like an alchemy about it. And it's an inversion of expectations. So I'm saying all this to say, though, if you buy the premise that that's what really makes a winning script, that you can create satisfying surprises, you do the DiCaprio point from Once Upon a Time, that's what will work and win. And to do that, you've got to establish expectations there. That's what we have to do in our first 10 pages. In our first 10 pages, we have got to establish every expectation we will later invert or surprise our audience with. And this works for every audience. So I started off saying, you said we got to hook the audience, right? Often what we mean by that when we're in this environment is I'm really hoping to get somebody to buy the script, right? And so that person reading, we want to hook. Or we mean an audience member, we want to hook.
Question?
Sure.
Wouldn't suspension of disbelief work in conjunction with the surprises? You know, man falls to earth and boom, it's an alien. Surprise. Or whatever you deem the setup to be. I mean, the suspension of disbelief would establish.
I 100% agree.
Surprise.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I think that's what establishing expectations allows. So let's talk about it, okay? So I think, let's talk about for readers first. So we want to hook, let's just get the hook thing out of the way. I've got some suggestions for you. This is as close to the tips and tricks as we'll get. But if you want to hook a reader, and we're going to come back to suspension of disbelief because I do think that's fundamental to this. First of all, ignite the story as fast as possible. Get to it, right? Your first 10 pages can't help you if your inciting incident is on page 20, right? So just like get into the story as fast as possible. What are some ways you can do that? I think of Memento. Does anybody remember the opening to Memento? Ish.
Chased. Being chased?
The opening
doesn't know
of
what
Memento
chasing
is
or being chased.
a hand holding a Polaroid
Ah,
that develops in reverse. Also, somebody gets shot down. But you don't know why any of that shit is happening. But you're certainly hooked, okay? So let's use this example. To my earlier point of like, if you just think about your first 10 pages as the job of it is to hook your audience, you can really do damage to the rest of your script. Imagine we have that and we never explain why the Polaroid is developing in reverse. It's just a flourish. It's just interesting. It was interesting in the first 10 pages, but you never come back to it. Is that satisfying?
No.
It would not be satisfying. Thank you, Hoyt. That would be irritating as fuck.
Right, exactly.
So that's the difference. When I say satisfying surprises, it's easy to surprise. You could do a weird thing and people will go, wow, why did we do that? And if you never answer them, they're mad. So Memento, of course, that is a good example, I think, because it's integral to the story. You understand we're telling the story in reverse. Here are some tips and tricks to ignite your story as fast as possible. One super popular we see all the time, a results sequence. What I mean by this is there are a bunch of forces at work in your screenplay. Open with a scene where we see the outcome of those forces. You see this all the time in horror movies. Someone gets killed. That's the outcome of the force at work in the script. Right? So we start off with, oh, these are the ultimate stakes in this story. That was surprising, but it's going to pay off because we're going to learn why that person got killed. Right? So that doesn't have to happen in a horror movie. I mean, it's not specific to horror movies. You could do whatever the forces are at work in your comedy or your drama. Show the outcome in your opening scene. Then you will spend the rest of the movie explaining and exploring those forces. So a result sequence. Another one that's interesting that can hook, again, you've got to have it integrated into the story we'll talk more about, is a misdirect. So there are some movies where you've all seen this, where you think you're following the lead and you're not. Also, by the way, popular in horror movies as the person who gets killed, right? We all think Drew is the lead. We follow Drew through the traditional beats, right? Setting expectations. Oh, this is our lead. And that person dies on page 8. And you go, oh, holy shit, where are we going from here? So a misdirect, a seemingly possible situation. Anybody Rick and Morty fan in the audience? Anybody remember the episode where they kept asking, how did you get up there? How did she get up there? The whole bit is this woman just appears on top of a telephone pole, and we don't know how she got up there, and she doesn't know how she got up there, and she's terrified. And she's just going, how did I get up here? That's an impossible situation where if you put that in the first part of your screenplay, you are putting a question that needs to be answered. Right? So an impossible situation, a question that begs to be answered, someone facing a choice we couldn't make ourselves. So we start to have this avatar on screen. We don't know why they have to make this choice. Something awful, something terrible, something seemingly impossible to choose. That would be a thing that would hook people. But ultimately, it's just a thing that seeds a question that has to be answered. The person can't stand not having the answer to the question, and then the answer can't be until page 11 or later, right? That's how you hook. I think we all know all that stuff. It's helpful maybe to just put them out in the air, talk about them tactically. But let's talk about the other things that we need to do to integrate into our first 10 pages to set expectations for the possibility of satisfying surprises. Really 3 things here. Establish the expectations of the world. So what's in the frame? Establish the expectations of the world. Establish the expectations of the lead. Also commonly known as, what's this dude's problem? And then establish some mysteries that will pay off later. So this is the most common one. Everybody knows the gun. What's it called? Chekhov's gun,
Oh, yeah.
right? If you show a gun in the first act, it's got to go off by the third act. Pretty close to this thing. But you establish setup stuff that you will pay off later. Because there's nothing more satisfying to an audience, right? Satisfying surprises, than being given 2 + 2 instead of 4, which I think we've all heard, right? So those are the 3 things outside this idea of we've got a hook that are critical to the functionality of your script along its whole longitude, along beginning to end, whether or. So if those of you who pulled up your screenplays, just take a minute or think about the screenplay that you wrote. What I'd like you to do just to start to get in this headspace is either reread that first page or think about what happens in that first page. And then I want you to think about when you sat down to write that movie, what is the movie you were sitting down to write, and how close is the match? Page 1 and what you intended to do. So just take a minute, 60 seconds, think about that first page or reread that first page, and then think about what movie you sat down to write or what you ended up writing. Yeah. And see if there's a gap. Let's go ahead and look. So if you compare that first page to the movie you ended up writing in totality or the one you set out to write, is there any gap? Or what's the evidence on that page that proves that was the movie you were going to write? So in other words, if you ended up writing a crime thriller, what do you see on page one that predicts that it's a crime thriller? Or could you have added more to make it clearer that that's what you were going to do? Thoughts? Anybody want to share? Yeah.
Establishing the protagonist. I mean, just his personality, the way he relates to his wife. He's a fun-loving guy. This, and it just establishes him. That's all.
Establishes him. What I'm asking about the world in general, like the kind of movie you were going to make.
Yeah, it's establishing that personality, that persona, and it's consistent through the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, this is an art that stuff happens to him that puts him in a different situation.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else? Yeah, please.
We've been here last year, been co-writing something.
Yeah.
And we had to read it out loud for the first time. And I don't want to speak totally on it because he also wrote it, but I think we got feedback on that people maybe wanted, like the mood and the tone is there, but maybe just more of the world
Sure.
that these characters live in. And now we've been talking about how to put it back into that.
Yeah. Why do you think that was the feedback? In other words, why would that be more satisfying to somebody to get more of that world?
You know, I think part of it is it's like a horror drama, but the characters have a really strong sense of humor. And so I think to set up who they are ahead of time,
Perfect example.
and either why they're so quippy later, or maybe they shouldn't be as quippy later as they are. Hearing it out loud, I heard it, and then people said it, and it made a lot of sense.
Perfect example. So anybody ever told a joke that fell flat in one situation and then, no, wait, Jim, and then got a good laugh in another situation? I don't believe you.
Oh,
Just joking. What was the difference, Chris?
it's audience, right? It's the people listening to the show,
Yeah.
right?
And the if I may, their expectations as set by the situation you're in,
Absolutely.
right? So another example is if you got a movie and it plays in a horror comedy block, people will laugh at it whether it's a horror comedy or not, right? Which we've talked about. So the setting, the situation establishes, it signposts expectations. So when you set your world like that, you need to signpost, you need to, for the audience, for your contract with the audience, set the expectations of what they're going to experience. Otherwise, they'll be confused later. If it seems like it's a serious, I'm not saying this was specifically for you, but for instance, if it seemed like a really serious horror drama on the first page, and then people are cracking wise 3 pages later, somebody might go, is this the same movie? You promised me a horror drama, not one where people will find. So signposting in your first, I picked page 1 just because it's shorter than 10 pages, but signposting your first 10 pages for the world tells the person, hey person, this is the kind of world we're in, so that they know how to engage and what expectations to bring to it. Why is that important? Because you can't navigate a story otherwise. So imagine yourself driving, for those of you who drive. Now imagine driving on that road with no lights, signs, or lane lines. Just a big road. Now it goes into an intersection with another big road. That's how it would be to try to navigate a screenplay without these expectations we bring to the story, right? We're bringing a whole loaded set of filters to every story we experience. So that's number one, is navigation, why you have to set the world. Number two is so you can invert the expectations later to make it satisfying and fun and surprising, right? Set the expectations so people can navigate, and then also so that it's fun later. So I wrote down, establishes the baseline for inversions. If you promised horror, deliver dread early, right? If you promised heist, deliver people being competent, people planning, right? Bring the elements of the genre to it. I think a great example of this, of world setting and telling us what normal looks like and how conflict gets introduced, is Get Out. So in Get Out, what we have is modern day and an anachronistic song, right? We have quiet suburbia and absolute primal panic, right? We have what we expect is a person who should be safe in our modern life, who clearly is not safe in our modern life. We establish really everything about this world, about its conflict, in that opening scene. It also has the benefit of being incredibly gripping, right? So it hooks. But really what it does is it tells us this is the kind of movie you're going to watch, so that I can get into it and be surprised later when it gets inverted, and it'll be satisfying. Number two, lead. So you were saying you set up the character and he's consistent throughout. We need to know the normal of the lead. So we know the normal of the world, then we need to know the normal of the lead. First 10 pages, what do they want? Give them a problem to solve. We all know this. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it. But you have to know, I will say this. Does anybody in here write without an outline? Does anybody start a script? You just start a script? You absolute psychos.
Couldn't agree more.
Good God.
Yeah, sorry. No.
What I suspect is you have done about a bunch of outlining in your head if you're doing that. Because you have to know for it ultimately to work and when you have to know where you're ending up.
Right, at the beginning and the end.
You have, at least,
So I
right?
don't need an outline.
So lead, I think a lot of people have done this work. The lead has a want and a need. Initially, they want their want, then they learn what their need was. You have to know that stuff in the beginning and establish it so that's satisfying. We'll move on from that. Finally, 2+2. You set up in the first 10 pages, and really probably through the first half of the script, 2s, and then you give the other 2 later and let everybody add together to get 4, because there's nothing more satisfying than interacting with the movie as the audience on those plot points. Things that you know about but aren't thinking about in the moment. That's what these 2+2 ideas are. So this is the Chekhov's gun thing. I didn't realize that thing that you showed me in the first 10 pages, let's use Die Hard as an example. So in the first 10 pages of Die Hard, we see he's got to take off his shoes, right? He's forced to take off his shoes. We have no idea that the glass scene is coming later, right? But it's set up and forgotten about. And then you go, oh shit, if he hadn't had to take off the shoes, right? That's the Leo point. So probably the ultimate example is some of Shyamalan's movies, which really the whole thing is a 2+2. Obviously, Sixth Sense is the big example here. We don't realize we're watching a thing. We are knowledgeable of the thing, but we are not aware of its importance to the story, presumably until the very end. When you see, what's that? I was like, should I say spoiler?
It's like 40 years old.
25 years later.
And why does McCoy have to take off his shoes? I don't remember that.
This is your toes. You gotta
Yeah,
relax.
he
In the rod to
when he's
Yeah.
on the airplane, he gets to recommend how to get over jet.
The other thing about Die Hard is we know out of the gate that his marriage is in trouble, right? And then, of course, that becomes this whole engine of what he's doing in Nakatomi.
Not tell me tower.
Never forget.
Well, also, in, you know, in what do you call it, in any movie, in Shyamalan, if 2 + 2 = 5, doesn't that constitute a surprise?
Yeah, but would it be satisfying?
Could be, because you didn't expect it.
I would argue that would piss me off.
Unless
If you try to tell me 2 + 2 is 5 without, it making sense, I would be like, yeah, that's surprising.
You establish
but
that it
don't.
makes sense because something is askew and something is.
Yes, I think
So
you're
expect-
absolutely there. So you
Unless
set
the-
expectations and then you satisfyingly invert them,
Okay. all
right?
So
So if you get to the end of the movie and 2 + 2 is 5, there has to be things seeded in the script where you look back alchemically and go, oh shit, that was there all along. He was dead all
So it's not really
along.
5, it's 4, it's just unexpected.
It's a surprise 4,
Okay.
and you get to reach that conclusion yourself. I promise I am done exploring the thinking. I do think this is essential. I do think this is what we should spend our time doing. I know it's not, in terms of setting expectations, it's not the first thing that comes to our minds about like doing a workshop or a talk together. But again, whether you buy this stuff or not, as long as you engage it and it sharpens the way you think about your writing, your storytelling, then I think it's worthwhile. I think it's way more worthwhile than me standing up here and saying, you gotta hook your audience. It's like, we all fucking know. Nobody wants to write a boring thing. Okay, so I have compiled this stuff together into a little bit of a test. I'd like you to, if you're friends with somebody nearby, partner up. You can do a trio if you want. I'm gonna give you some stuff to check. Yeah, I know, it's gonna be uncomfortable. Let's just get over it. We're at a film festival. Just pick a person next to you, please. You can come up with me if you need to.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna give you probably 6 things, little tests for your screenplay. I just want you to talk with your partner about the screenplay you're thinking about, so you can have a screenplay in your mind. What you did and what might have been better thinking about this specific topic. So the first one, for example, is gonna be tone. So this is setting the world's expectation in the opening of your screenplay. So this answers things like, what rules govern this universe? Is it comedic? Is it magic realism? Is it dream logic, right? Giving signposting so people understand the expectations. So just with your partner, sit there for a minute, think about, or you can glance at your screenplay if you want, and think about, did you establish the world, the tone, as clearly as you could? What's something you might do differently now on a rewrite to make it even clearer? So go ahead, we'll just do this like 60, 90 seconds.
I think page 1 does I established that. There's also an orderly list. Maybe I could have elaborated more on it, but for the time that I was trying to make the film, I didn't want to
Yeah.
So that's the when it's the voyeuristic with the swimming pool and all that shit. But that's more. That's a little more wishy-washy.
So, yeah, as far as setting the
And I think that keep pulling back, the narration. But in the future, and it's a suicide attack, through the narration, you'd say, this is actually closer.
Oh wow.
And I have so visually what you see versus the words you're hearing That's it.
It's that dichotomy.
Yes.
So it's not. So it takes place in the backdrop of the.
Yeah.
That's a good way to set that up.
You read Jubilee.
I mean, this is
That's the first page of my short.
I think it's but that was more like this.
Oh.
Love the tone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The thing is, I didn't think about it.
Okay, before I lose you, I know this will be the most interesting thing to explore back into your other stuff. Let's go to the next check. The next check is your lead or your protagonist. Do we lock in on this person? What do they want? Right? What is their problem? What are the forces at work on this person? Are we effectively locking into that lead? See if I wrote anything else down important. Oh, I wrote down whose problem is this story? Right? Like I'm telling a story, but it's somebody's problem. Whose problem is it and why? So why don't you now think about your screenplay, same thing, protagonist, even in an ensemble, you got to have a camera bias, right? They're not all medium to wide shots. Whose problem is this story? How effectively did you do it? When you did it effectively, what'd you do? And then is there room for improvement? Go ahead, we'll do another 9 seconds.
Yeah, I think I set up her grace with his want in the first page. Yeah. We know that he's trying to sell somebody something. You just don't necessarily know that he's going over that house. And you don't want to know that. You don't want to give everything away.
Yeah, okay, that's what I can see.
Yeah.
Are you trying to get the
No, but be interesting if it did. I never really explored that idea as a feature.
Yeah, everything else.
That feature would probably be very meandering.
It's just curious to me.
I've known these guys for years and I'm still scared.
You're always scared. I'm always scared.
So yours takes place in the South. I mean, it has that kind of like yeah, it's very. I mean, I've only read one page and I already love it. I don't know. Is it something you're going to produce?
I'm hoping.
Yeah, great. That's feature length or short?
Really what works. Brad had a big, like, just read a script. I'm like, okay. So that's
So these are just the start of conversation, y'all. I know we could go forever on each of these. Don't feel like you're getting shortchanged. Talk to this person afterward, or make yourself a note and talk to your writing partner or whatever. We're gonna stop at each one before you are ready to be done, so we can get through them all, but keep thinking about it later. Next one, I'd prefer to skip unless you guys yell at me, which is, do you establish the tone? I'm just gonna give you a tip that works for me, which is in the world, what does a normal Tuesday look like? For me, that's the way I get to like, oh, I understand. That's what I'm describing here. Obviously, it can't be boring. We talk about surprises, hooking, all that stuff. But do I know what a normal Tuesday looks like? Why is that important? So people know how to navigate, and so you can invert it later. You can go, holy shit, this is not a normal Tuesday, right? So is it okay if we skip that one in the discussion? Here's where I think it starts to get even more interesting. Do you preview the problem? And a phrase for me with this is, what is already unsustainable? What within the first 10 pages is already gonna topple? What is the preview of the problem? Do you preview your problem in the first 10 pages? If so, and it's effective, how'd you do that? Share that. And if not, what could you do differently to better preview what's already unsustainable? What's gonna fail or fall apart?
Suspension of disbelief.
Go ahead, guys.
So
Yeah, I'd love to.
It's a great first page.
Remember that? Is that there?
Right.
But never?
2 years.
But
Oh, nice.
so
What is it?
It's like, go to bed.
Yeah,
Just get right into
I'm
it.
ready. Yeah, well, I had my kids with me, so these are in their hands.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yeah, this is good because I don't know what it's called. Yep. Possible situation. Question and answer. Yeah, mine was great. Very quick. Okay. The question for me is, do you see a way to establish genre before in that? Because you absolutely have that.
Yeah, I already did.
Yeah. Yep.
That's the first page before we're all
Perfect contrast between a line of action and then her line of dialogue. It's perfect, right? That immediately makes me go, why? If you're getting photographed, why are you telling me that?
And then it cuts to his like orderliness at the
music. In the first half of the movie, it's a traditional like.
Yeah, and then cut to I'm in the cemetery making a call about that. Yeah. Yeah, well, I think super strength there, I mean, the contrast between the action and then the first line dialogue, chef's kiss. But I really get the vibe of this. I know the tone, right? This is gonna be weird. This is gonna be, this is already flying in the face of expectations.
Yeah. But honestly, I mean, I still always try to be pretty formulaic. I mean,
That's why they work, dude.
yeah, I always set up. I always
I
have.
still have people arguing.
Real works.
That's it, exactly.
In fact, a movie that like purposely tries to be unformulaic, they're like,
It's gonna suck.
I can't even watch it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, let's do the last one. And this will transition us into a kind of like, I'll give you 3 tips because everybody was so kind and really engaged in the thinking. Last one is, what creates in that first page or those first 10 pages forward pull? I heard somebody say your screenplay throughout should be like falling forward, which made me mad because I was like, that sounds like a lot of work, but it's true. It should be like falling forward. What in the first 10 pages makes the reader feel like they're falling forward? What's the hook, right? So, what did I write down? Yeah, what question does page 10 force me to keep reading to answer, right? What mystery or question is seated? So go ahead and discuss that, and then we'll do a little wrap up.
Pushes the story forward.
So it's like, Cedric, you got this, right? What's wrong with it? We got a bunch of questions. What is she doing and why? You know, I think the interesting thing for you, Drew, is you've got a split first page where you're introducing 2 characters and you're immediately like, what's going on with them, but also is there a relationship? Because my assumption is you're showing me 2 people, and in some way they're going to be
Right, but not obviously at first.
Exactly.
Because even though it's shot the same way, it feels like the cemetery salesman is way more grounded.
Yes.
Even though you figure out that he's not at the end.
Yeah. He seems like he's from our world.
Right.
She doesn't seem like she's from our world.
Right.
Right.
Right. Now, it's useful to remind ourselves of that.
Middle as like.
So, at Chapman,
I love the contrast of it's so like philosophic and reflective, and he's like, "Yeah, but that world." I love that. Oh, great. Yeah, I mean, to me, this is the perfect use of framing to go like to communicate tone and to invert expectations. Start in tight, think sort of like a dramatic, thoughtful piece, right? Coming out. Oh shit, what the box cutter? What am I in? I know what I'm in, but I'm also wondering what the fuck happened. That's great. Right.
Okay, let's end that exchange where that is. Remember where you left off. These festivals are about having these conversations. Typically at the bar, too late, too much to drink. But you can have them anywhere. By the way, you can. It doesn't have to be at the bar. It just is really fun there. I'll give you, so I forced myself to think about what 3 tips would help me in hooking. Just, again, in the spirit of what were our expectations coming into this. Here are 3 ideas I would give you just to do in the first 10 pages of everything. And I'm going to try to do this too. First one is start where the genre starts. This is the thing I was telling Stuart. Stuart and I are working together on a screenplay, on a movie, ultimately, I think we will make regardless. And I was saying, you know, I have a tendency to still be finding the tone still too late, right? I think I've got good setups and scenes, but I'm still a little mushy in. Start where the genre starts. So again, you have to know what your genre is. You have to know what kind of movie you're making. Start right there. Don't give any ramp up. The ramp up should look like this. So start where the genre starts. If it's horror, start with dread. If it's crime, start with crime, right? Whatever it is, start there. Number 2, give the lead a problem. If you're feeling like that opening is a little wobbly, a little impotent, make sure your lead has a problem, and that will fix 80% of it. And lastly, use a loaded question. This is euphemistic for all of those how to hook ideas we talked about, like a misdirect, an outcome scene, you know, all of those things. Those create a loaded question that somebody just will have to know the answer to. So start where the genre starts, give your lead a problem, and what did I say? Oh, use a loaded question. So I didn't want you to leave without like a little handy dandy tips and tactics sheet, but I do think, again, if I can make my pitch to you, ultimately your screenplay will work and win based on your ability to give people the same thing, only different, to surprise them in a satisfying way. And all that stuff gets set up in your first 10 pages. How you establish the world and the expectations of the world so you can purposefully invert them later. Those are the moments when people go, holy shit, I love that script, or holy shit, I love that movie. Every time. It's the surprise, the satisfying surprise. And especially if you can give people the opportunity to add 2 and 2, and they can make it for themselves, that's especially satisfying. So when you think about your front 10, yes, you got to think about hooking people, but that is not sufficient. We are laying the groundwork for the entirety of your screenplay in those first 10 pages. So be thinking about, how do I set expectations of the world, of the lead, and then how do I seed some things that will become surprises later that people are knowledgeable about, but not thinking about. So later they go, oh my God, if you had to take off the shoes. So we've got another half hour booked. I'm under no delusions anybody wants to stay and do another half hour, but I'm happy to talk about stuff. So if you have questions, we can do questions. If everybody's ready to just go pee and move on, that's okay too. But are there, Jeff?
I've got a very personal and specific question.
Excellent.
Adaptations, where some of what you just brought up in terms of expectation is there before you start.
Totally, man. Yeah, I have thought a ton about this. You know what? I'm interested if anybody. So, can I say back what I think is the heart of this question? So, if we're saying that playing with people's expectations is the key to satisfying surprises, and satisfying surprises is the key to a winning script. If you are adapting something, people know there are expectations coming into it, right? That you also have to deal with. And what's the right degree of changing versus staying faithful to those expectations? Is that in the vicinity?
Yeah.
What would you add to it?
Yeah, because I mean, it feels like it's that you have the additional layer of expectations regarding fidelity.
Right.
And you mess with those at your own risk.
Yes.
But you have to mess with them.
Yeah. I mean, what are people's thoughts? I've got stuff I'm thinking. Yeah,
degrees of believability. I mean, and even if you do it in like small increments, like, well, okay, I accept that, because every choice that the protagonist makes is moving the story forward, or you don't want it to be idle, but it's I don't want to say it. Each little incident contributes to what's going to happen next, and well, I made a choice. Well, okay, I'd go along with that, and it makes another choice. Well, I'd go along with that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you find out that, holy shit, I'm in the back of a car. I'm in the trunk. How did I get here?
You're right.
But
how did I get here? Yeah.
Well, you can give me a couple of minutes. I'll wait.
Other thoughts? Yeah.
Yeah, when I think of the idea.
Well, you're knee deep in adapting something right now, so you got a very specific point of view. Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, but I just overall in the whole talk you've had, as far as hooking an audience, but then also providing this foundation for the story.
Mhm.
The one that has grabbed me more than I've suggested to many people is the beginning of World War Z.
Mhm.
If you watch what happens in the first 4.5 minutes, it starts normal family life, conversation in the car,
Mhm.
and then all some strange things start happening.
Mhm.
Things move into this whole kind of, you move from the ordinary world to the extraordinary world rapidly.
Mhm.
You see a key component of when the first person gets bitten, that Brad Pitt is counting the time it took for the person to be infected, which
Yes.
becomes a key thing later. So in this,
And it also tells you all about him.
it tells you, again, he's got obviously an awareness and a certain kind of heightened intelligence in this area.
Yeah.
So it's incredible what it sets up within virtually one scene.
Great example.
Yeah, and I think it hits a lot of the points you're
Also an
talking about.
adaptation.
Yeah.
And an
Right.
adaptation that some people were mad about, because did anybody read World War Z, the book? Yeah, it's just vignettes, super fun. Turned out written by a shitbag.
And a
but-
Hollywood film that they reshot the entire third act, for
They did,
$80 million, which ended up being a very powerful third
It
act.
did, yeah.
You know, it's like,
Jeff, I got a point of view. Are you adaptation?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
I was just thinking about, I love, there are some straight adaptations that don't work because it is a different medium, and so I want to see something in a movie, not that I want the character to the story change too much, but that I can't get out of a book. So like, that is what we're talking about, right? Like,
Yeah.
like from other, so like one of my favorite examples is Carrie.
Mhm.
I can't get a split screen in a book.
Mhm.
I can't get her stepping off the stage and people trying to get out, and so I think there's a little bit different from the book, because the book is more like you're reading a magazine that interviews about Carrie.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as narrative, but Stephen King, that's the one that he likes better than the book. And I think part of it is, again, you're giving me something that I absolutely cannot get out of a book through your visual style.
Yeah.
And I love seeing that, and I think when I see things like that, I'm like, you know what, I'm not mad that you changed maybe a little bit of the source material because you made it work. Whereas I do see some where something is so in a book, there's dialogue, and going back to Stephen King, there's some Stephen King dialogue that works in a book and you see it on screen and it just doesn't work.
Boy,
you know?
howdy.
So,
And I love him.
well, I
But you're absolutely
love
right.
Stephen King, but
Things
like,
don't port over directly.
I just really quickly, I love the book The Shining, and I love Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and I started watching the miniseries, and there's things about it that I like, but there's stuff that to me does not work. It was better left in my imagination,
Right.
You know, so I don't know. That's just kind of how I see it.
I think one of the best ideas of an adaptation was The Godfather.
Uh-huh.
It stayed pretty close to the book, and there was a lot of information in there that, you know, had to get cut, but overall, it was like, I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't know that Michael Corleone wanted to be a math teacher.
But I think that's the heart of the question is like, is a good adaptation one that stays close
Right.
to the material, right? Like, Jeff, I'll tell you, if somebody said adapt something, gave it to me right now, I would try to adapt it into the most effective movie I could make based on what I understand about structuring a screenplay. And I would not consider fan service, all that stuff. That's just what I would do. Because I cannot, because I believe I cannot predict those reactions accurately enough to build them into the movie. I would want to make the best movie I could make. But that's just me. What was your, hold on, George, I'll get to you. What was your approach when you did it? I'm assuming you're thinking about the time you did it.
Well, I mean, I just did one, so.
So how'd you approach it?
I was adapting, well, I was kind of cheating, I was adapting Shakespeare, so I had, so half the work was already done, but in terms of priorities, I wanted to maintain character relationships and character dynamics through a plot that has the same arcs, if not the exact same plot points. And also with a change in, a different setting, because the sensibilities have changed in 400 years.
Yeah.
And, and some streamlining of characters, just because, I don't have to worry about making sure everybody's got lines.
Yeah. George, what were you gonna say?
I was just thinking, because we were talking about Stephen King adaptations, I thought last year we saw 2 ends of the spectrum.
Yes.
For The Life of Chuck, did not work for me at all, because I felt like I was being read a book.
Mm-hmm.
And as much visually interesting as it was, I felt like they were reading a book to me, telling me how to feel, when to feel. And whether The Long Walk, then I thought it did a great job balancing. It was so dialogue heavy, obviously, because they're walking. But I thought it did a really effective job in making that organic and making me feel like I was discovering things and not being led.
Yeah, right.
Those
You were
are-
allowed into the story, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just in the same year, I thought 2 totally different levels of success for me anyway.
Yeah.
For those adaptations.
Yeah, yeah. Caught Stealing, one of my favorite books of all time. Charlie Houston, one of my favorite writers of all time. Anybody see Caught Stealing?
Yeah.
Aronofsky? 2 people? Like, yeah, no. When I saw that was getting made, I literally did the Leo point in the theater. I hadn't heard that it was finally getting made. I was with my kid. We were watching Superman for the 3rd time. The trailer started playing, and I was like, this seems really familiar. Oh, Aronofsky, new Aronofsky movie. That's cool. And the title came up, and I was like, it wasn't great. And that's because I brought all my expectations of a favorite book and a favorite writer and all that stuff. It's tough. What other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What is a time?
I don't know your pronouns. Yes.
Oh, you were good.
Sorry about
What is a time that you watched a movie and dealing with expectations where you went, that should not have worked, but it did?
Oh, that's interesting.
And I think.
Are you thinking of one?
You know what? If you hadn't asked me, I would have one.
Yeah.
But
You can tell me at the bar.
I think it takes so much time and finesse. Like I have other people that are kind of on my level and we're not super established yet, and they're like, "Yeah, but so and so did," and I'm like, "Yeah, but they've been doing it long." You know what I mean? That takes a little while. I think. Well, I think because I'm in the zombie headspace, but I think one movie that so well balances comedy and horror and drama is Shaun of the Dead.
Yep.
But we established that very quickly. You see him being totally clueless when he goes to the liquor store. There's like a bloody hamper on the wall. He doesn't see it. And then later, spoiler alert, when his mom is turning into a zombie, it's devastating.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie does such a good balance of not making that feel like it's out of place.
Yeah.
And I see other horror comedies that don't work for me.
Yeah.
I really wanted, no offense to anybody who loves this, I wanted a love Lisa Frankenstein, and it just did not land the same way.
Yeah.
And it's one of those that I was like, man, this is so my thing. And I went to see it, and I was like, I think a different cut may have been better. But, but yeah, if you can think of any instances where it came to expectations for this or that, or playing with that was satisfying, but you're like, you know what? I didn't think it would go that way, and I wasn't even hoping it would go that way, but I'm so glad it did.
Yeah. I can't think of anything specifically. I can speak broadly to 2 things that are my reactions. One is there must be something in the first 10 minutes of Shaun of the Dead that makes us fall in love with him as our avatar, because that's what allows pathos.
Mm-hmm.
That's what allows us to both laugh with him and feel the devastation of losing his
Simon
mom.
Pegg is a regular guy. He's like, he's
Yeah, but it must do something
putting the fish
specific,
out of
right?
water. Like all of a sudden he's
Yeah.
inundated with, get me.
Yeah.
He's trying to get on his girlfriend to get inside, which really humanizes him.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And you know what?
That's his problem.
That's part of it, is I want to see characters try as hard as they can.
Yes.
And I feel like he does.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in terms of I feel like we're actually describing the same thing when you say something that shouldn't have worked, but then you found it satisfying.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that ever happens. I guess I'm painting with a broad brush. I don't think that ever happens without intent.
Yeah.
So I think if that happened, it's because it was set up somehow. Maybe not, probably not obviously. And then we went, oh, that was really satisfying. Yeah, that's a surprise that satisfied me. As opposed to, I don't know, pick one that didn't work. Yeah.
The last scene with in Sixth Sense with like his wife on their anniversary.
Yeah.
His wife is sitting at the table and like, she's like, and he's sitting across from her, and she's obviously not seeing him, but, I was like, she's lamenting, and she's still mourning the loss. And
Right.
it doesn't dawn on him until he tries to, like reach for the doorknob.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that's like that's probably the preeminent example of the, 2+2. Were you gonna?
Yeah, I just mentioned to her what came to mind about surprises, like when Luke found out Darth Vader was his father.
Mhm.
That just totally shook shook everything.
Yes.
So that was like totally unexpected, but alluded to it with the battles before.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, great example.
Mhm.
Yeah. Other questions or thoughts, reflections on this? We're good? Okay. Thanks for the time, you guys. Thanks for the conversation. And feel free to grab the conversation. Yes, that's perfect. Yeah. That's exactly what happened. Yeah. And then the was to.
I'm excited for the
Relax in the middle of the frame.